Thank you for listening to Depictions Media Radio. Okay, and in 5, 4, 3. Welcome back, everyone. I'm here today with Cathinre Steele. Cathinre is a pronunciation coach with over 30 years' experience helping internationally trained professionals to be easily understood by all audiences. She helps them become polished with a professional image all to their North American contacts and audiences. Cathinre has built successful careers for business, engineering, accounting, and science tech professionals, as well as speakers. With specializations in language, literature, and linguistics, Cathinre holds a BE, Bachelor's of Education. You'll have to explain the TESOL.
Okay.
And welcome to the show, Cathinre.
Thank you. I'll clear up the mystery right away. It's teaching English as a second or other language.
Second or other
ESL
language.
specialization. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I've heard of ESL, which is, of course, is English as a second language, but or other. Wow. Meaning that they already speak multiple languages, I would guess.
That's right. Many people have more than one, so.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you, Michael. It's a pleasure to be on the podcast.
Yeah, you leave a lot for me to live up to, because you're this expert in pronunciation, and I do have a slight speaking impediment, and I tend to stumble over a couple words here and there, or I avoid saying the words altogether.
Yeah.
So,
that's an interesting thing about what I do. I meet a lot of people that I network with, and people will come up quietly at the end and say, when I was a child, I had help. I got help with speech. And that surprises me, but there are a lot of people that struggled to speak clearly and got help when they were younger. And then my clients are looking for help as adults. And so that what it means is that something can be done. You can get past barriers that you thought were insurmountable, and it's possible.
Yeah, and I'm going to lay this out there because there are some of our audience. They are life coaches and things where public speaking really helps them build up their client base and fill their pipeline. That I've always advised that if you're going to be speaking to people a lot, you probably should keep on retainer that speaking coach.
It really helps. Not only does it help to structure you, for confidence, when you know that you're nailing things go much better. So every success that you can build into whatever you do in your life, but public speaking especially, because there's a lot of pressure in public speaking. Every time you can say, yep, I know I did that well, your brain can relax, and then you can just concentrate on your audience, which is who needs that the most. And so anything that you can do to be helpful to your audience builds your confidence and helps them understand you and buy from you, whatever it is you want them to get from you. They'll hear it, they'll be able to use it, they'll be able to buy it. So it all works out really well. Yeah.
So, and just listen to your diction is like, wow. She must sell a lot.
Clear?
She must sell a lot. You must have helped lots and lots of people.
I have, and it changes the way that you speak. When you speak to a lot of people who will not understand you easily, you develop some tricks to make sure that most of the people will understand you the first time, and everybody will understand you the second time. And I think that's what you see in some of the top public speakers in the world, including people like the Queen and Barack Obama and the Pope. They speak to people who do not necessarily understand them easily, and they speak to audiences that are, at a distance perhaps, or through a microphone that may or may not be working clearly.
Right.
And they develop a strategy to be clear. So that's what I help my clients to do.
Yeah. I will say this personally, that because I grew up in an area known for the movie Rocky, and you listen to how Sylvester Stallone played Rocky, is like, if you're not really from the area, he becomes a little hard to understand if you picture Rocky appearing on stage in front of you. So I had to learn, it took some coaching to learn how to minimize that accent, so there was just a little twang there that people heard me distinct, set me apart from other people, but they could hear what I was actually saying, hear what the message was, without like, what was he talking about?
Mm-hmm.
So
mm-hmm. That's an excellent example where the message sometimes gets completely lost in the person's perception of your confidence or their perception of where you are and how much you might know. I know many of my clients are concerned that they might not sound educated. Mm-hmm. And so they want to be sure that they come across as educated or maybe even more educated than they would in their first language.
Right. Excellent. So, you've brought today 5 tips with you.
I did.
Why don't we start off with those, and let's see what we can learn to be better speakers and communicate with people better.
Perfect. Yes. So my tips will be of interest to anyone who's speaking, particularly to someone who comes from another part of the world and realizes that Canadians and Americans don't always understand the first time they say something. Mm-hmm. They will seem simple, but they will also be tips that people have asked for. So number 1, I think you're going to know what it is. It's slow down. Slow down and space out your ideas. So we all think that the other person speaks quickly. It doesn't matter which language it is. We think the person speaks quickly. And it can be due to nervousness. It can be due to excitement. It can be due to knowing your topic really well. And so that comes out quickly, or having said it so many times, like your elevator pitch. Mm-hmm. In fact, you need to be the slowest when it comes to your name or your company name or your product, because you want to be sure that people go home with that. So really slow down. And slow down means make a space between important parts of what you're saying. So I was at a big networking event in Vancouver where people got the chance to introduce themselves and talk about their business. And at the end, several people came up to me and suggested that I work with one particular man who was friendly, had excellent energy, was passionate about what he was doing, but who no one in the room understood. No one. So no one was able to refer him to someone else because they didn't know what he did and they couldn't remember his name. And his first language was English. But it was so different from the sound of English in Vancouver that people didn't understand. And so it would have helped if he had known how to slow down to support his listener. And it might surprise you to know that he was originally from Scotland. It wasn't the English that was getting in the way. It was the speed. So that's my number 1 tip. Slow down by spacing out your words. Should I keep going to number 2?
Yeah. Yeah. I think I already mentioned how I used to speak too fast. So it's like, So that is an excellent one. So what's number 2?
Number 2 is know which words in your industry sound like other words when you're speaking to people over the phone or when they don't know much about your industry. Maybe when you're video conferencing. I have a topic that I use to train people called 50 confusing words. And it's, 50 confusing words in accounting, 50 confusing words in engineering. Because those words are probably the most comfortable to you. They are the jargon of your language, of your day-to-day world. And the people around you may hear something completely different. For example, I had a Russian engineer, a woman. She was the only woman in her office, a whole pile of guy engineers and this one woman. And she told me that she used to say, I'll bet you, right? To introduce an idea. Well, I'll bet you if we change this angle slightly, we would get a better result. For example, I'll bet you. Mm-hmm. B-E-T. They all heard, I'll bed you, B-E-D, like I will go to bed with you every time. And so from that with a T to bed with a D, when you look at it, it looks different. But when you say it, if you're not careful, the other person may not hear what you wanted them to hear. So that was a little humorous one that she could share with me. And there are many, many more. We all know there are some dangerous ones, but there are also just plain confusing ones. And I talk about asset and assess and asses, that can cause a huge confusion.
Yeah.
So, mm-hmm.
Yeah, now you remind me of something from growing up, that because of the accent from the area that I grew up in, that pavement was always, everybody in the area said payment. So I learned to avoid the word, because if I get too relaxed, it does come out sounding more like payment than pavement, and it confuses people. So you say concrete or sidewalk, so people know what you're talking about. I totally get that one. That I'll bet I'll bed you instead of I bet you. Yeah.
Yeah. And, I think it's so interesting when people are aware, they're often aware of a few things. In Japan, I was aware that instead of saying, oh, so cute, when I met a couple with a new baby, I said the baby was really cute. Mm-hmm. But I missed it. I didn't pronounce it well. And I said the baby was scary, like terrifying. And you don't want to say that somebody's baby is scary. So, and the thing that I know in my mind is I know that one example of a mistake, but it's like the tip of the iceberg. How many other words weren't right and were causing people problems at the minimum, and it really embarrassing me without my knowing it, if I dug deeper. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. I have a third one. Should we go on to number 3?
Yes, let's try number 3.
All right. So number 3 is speak with your chin level with the floor, even when no one can see you, right? We need to hear the full volume. And in English, we need quite a bit of air on certain sounds. So I'm going to give you a list of sounds where you need extra air, or it will be confusing to the person. And this is part of the bed and bet kind of thing. So on P, T, K, F, TH, and H, you need more air. So you're going P, T, K, F, and hi, how are you? Has quite a bit more air than in other languages. Mm-hmm. And so if we're talking about peaches, this is sort of just nectarine, peach, and plum season right now. Peach has a ton of air, and mm-hmm. beach doesn't. And so the same sort of happens if you say crab, I don't want any air. But if you like seafood and you like crap, you don't want crap. You want crab. with no air. So you have to distinguish between words that require more air on letters and words that require a removal of air. So if your chin up level to the floor will help.
I'm actually taking notes.
Are you? Okay. And I was going to say, that energy that you can bring, if you're in a choir, they ask you to stand up to sing because it gives you your full lung capacity. Mm-hmm. It also helps with a confident rhythm because in North American English, we emphasize certain words. And I mentioned, spacing words out. You should be sure that some are louder than others, and you need your full voice to be able to do that. And that helps you sound confident.
Yeah. Okay, so while we're still on tip number 3, you're reminding me of something that that I was taught in theater school. The strong chin.
Okay. Tell me about the strong chin.
Yeah, it's the same thing you're just saying. It's like instead of saying, they say keep a strong chin, meaning keep your chin level with the floor.
Okay. Oh, yeah. I love it. That's even better. I might use that, Michael.
so because if you keep your, you can actually hear the difference. If I tip my chin down towards my, back towards my neck, I sound way different than if I keep my chin level with the floor.
Right.
I actually hear a difference. Yeah. So it's like, oh wow. It's like, but to some people, your way of saying it's probably a better way of saying it, though, because they can visualize it.
I like it, but I love strong chin.
Hey, we both have something new to use now.
Nice, I like it. An exchange.
Yeah. So yeah, number 4.
Number 4 is to exaggerate your facial movements so that people can read what you're saying from your face. And we talk about, eye contact, but really what I think is going on is the person is trying to see different movements in the muscles around your eyes, around your lips, even your nose crinkling maybe, or your eyebrows moving, you're scrunching your forehead. That all indicates a different letter and may distinguish one word from another without a person really realizing. We've got masks right now, which is a challenge for sure. So be really dynamic behind the mask if you can. And what I want to emphasize is that no movement indicates disdain, the idea that I'm better than you, arrogance, even refusing to participate, or boredom. And it is a form of shunning or bullying because you're showing you're not interested in the other person. You're not engaging with the other person. They will very quickly walk away and talk to someone else if you don't move your face in some kind of an animated manner. Even if you're showing anger, at least you're engaged. And so when we're thinking of actors who start to use Botox, their fans are horrified because their faces become rigid and they seem cold and distant rather than that warm, real person that was portraying emotion before. So one of the examples I can think of is in Canada, the example of the at the beginning of Canada, it requires a huge movement of the face. And the classic is an ad in Japan for a language school where they were saying banana because people were saying banana, banana, and like banana. And so they made a joke about the classical music versus banana with this exaggerated face in the middle of the word.
Wow, that also kind of makes sense, and it may make sense why when I first moved here, people thought I was was angry because of my facial movements.
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
Yeah. It's amazing the things that translate and don't translate depending on where you come from and where you're going, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, especially I like the banana though. It's like, yeah, banana. Yeah. It's good. So, so exaggerate our facial movements and to show engagement and to add to clarity, right?
Exactly. And I think sometimes people think that we're mocking the other person if we're that exaggerated, or that they'll look like a clown, or I think mostly in other languages it would be to laugh at another person, to make that big of an exaggeration. And yet here it's polite, it's being helpful and being clear. We have so many words that sound similar that if we can exaggerate just at the right point, you don't exaggerate every single piece of the word, but the one part, like repetition and reputation, if I don't go tay in a kind of an exaggerated big smile, did you say repetition? No, reputation. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to exaggerate just that part, the tay in that word.
Excellent. Cool. So, I guess we're up to number 5.
Number 5. Okay, so my point is to arrange your main points to land at the end of your sentences. This is sort of how North American sentences are organized anyway. I would say English sentences in general. We say, hey, let's go to I'll meet you at, and we'll be there with, and if you don't have the last point, I don't know what we're doing. Let's go to the movie.
Right.
I'll meet you at 7, and we'll go with Lisa. So we have movie, 7, Lisa,
right.
And that really is all I need. So I'm going to land on that point and make it loud. And we've already talked about stopping so that the person can break the sentence up to change the speed, right? So that's part of where you're going to change the speed. Let's go to the movie. Wait. I'll meet you at 7. It's loud on 7, and then I wait a little bit. Let's go with Lisa. And it allows the person to think about that last word, which should be the most important part. And if there are any problems with understanding that last word, they have a chance to ask you something before you've moved on to the next thing.
Mm-hmm. For instance, which movie, or who is Lisa?
Right? After the movie, let's go for pizza. We'll take Lisa, right? It's all at the end of the sentence.
Right.
One thing I didn't mention is that a run-on sentence is rude. And when we don't make enough breaks or we don't land loudly on certain points, the other person doesn't have a chance to interrupt. They don't get a chance to give an opinion, and they feel as though they're unwelcome, and we don't want that. It also sounds as though the speaker lacks confidence. They just start talking, trying to convince rather than sharing information.
Okay. Unconfident. We don't want to see that's one point, especially if we're on stage, or in this case, the lead of the Zoom call.
Right.
We don't want people thinking that we're unconfident or rude. So, yeah. So that was the bonus prize.
Yeah, and that is an interesting point that you make. I have a note to myself that it takes care of issues with technology, and it makes you sound confident as you say, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. So, thank you for listening to us today. Please find and click on the subscribe button so you can get continued updates from us. The Q one, that was good. I hadn't thought of that. There's a word that if you mispronounce cute in Japan, that is horrifying.
Exactly. And the cute is kawaii, and horrifying or scary is kawaii. So kawaii and kawaii, to me, there wasn't a lot of difference in the sound. And of course, and this is what happens to people here, if we're at all wrong in our pronunciation, the person will always hear the bad one. Always. And for a moment, they're shocked. And while they're shocked, they miss the next thing that we say, and suddenly they're out of the conversation. They cannot figure out what we're talking about. They've lost the thread.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I see that, because you become focused on I'm horrified and insulted or something, right?
Mm-hmm. They grabbed the baby and pulled the baby back, right? They were holding the baby toward me so I could see her, and they pulled her back to their chest. It's like, I'm so sorry. What did I say? Right? And because of that horrified reaction, I actually know that there was a problem.
Mm-hmm.
So that might be something that I would suggest, is if you notice that people are puzzled or angry or really kind of off topic or not asking questions at a certain point when you expect them, those are points in your presentation that you should ask some questions about and need to address. And it's always going to be the person who asks those questions and digs deeper that gets the good results. So don't be shy to say, I think something went wrong sort of in the second half. Could anybody tell me, what did I say? Or was there a point that, didn't land well, or did I hurt someone's feelings? Like, keep digging and try to figure it out. If you can do that, it shows a lot of vulnerability, of course, but you will be able to repair some things. You don't want to give that talk again in the same way. And that person will actually become closer to you. So the know, like, and trust is being built because you were vulnerable and asking for coaching.
Right. And that also makes perfect sense to open yourself up, because we all need to keep learning and keep growing. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I can honestly say in the situation with the cute versus I don't even remember cute versus scary. That in that, by asking, it's like, I'm sorry, what did I say wrong? Did you actually become friendlier that way? Because
I think so. I think I saved that relationship. So, for one, right? And they were new to me. The couple was new and the baby was brand new. And they were friends of mine that were introducing the couple and the new baby. And that could have gone very badly. I could have damaged my relationship with the new couple and my relationship with my friends who trusted me to introduce me to their friends.
Yeah. Were you were there visiting and on a friendly matter, or was there a business involved?
Yeah, I was living and working in Japan, and I made some very good friends that were generous enough to hang out with me and speak Japanese. That's really hard when you're trying to learn a language when people around you are not speaking your target language. And they were good enough to stumble along with my slow, painful beginner Japanese so that I could get a little bit better and learn more.
Yeah. Yeah. I had been invited myself while I was working for Mitsubishi to go to Tokyo for a few weeks.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it was very nice. But because of the technical aspects of what I was supposed to be doing there, I did not have the opportunity to learn hardly any Japanese at all, other than arigato.
Right, right. And that's something people don't always realize, that you can be immersed in a situation and yet not have a chance because you're working in your first language.
Right. Yeah. So they made sure that everybody who I would be working with at the time spoke English. So, but that was a long time ago. Yeah, it was a wonderful experience, though.
I'll bet. Oh wow, I love Japan. It was wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
I was there for 3 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
people are very generous.
Yeah, one of my favorite things to eat is sashimi, and trying to order it in Japanese is like, okay, I know what I want, but it turns out what they serve in America versus what they serve in Japan is kind of different.
Yeah, and then not being able to read the menu.
Yeah.
You end up pointing at things. I remember pointing at other people in the restaurant going, that looks interesting. Let's try that person's dinner.
Yeah. And
then learning slowly by ordering a few things and asking for the name.
Yes, exactly. I got off pretty easy with that one because the coworker that I was staying with, I actually got to stay in his house. I didn't have to stay in one of the hotels, because some of the people they had to stay in a hotel when they went there. And being 6'4" and trying to squish into what Japan calls a hotel, not so comfortable.
Right, the size would be difficult.
Yeah. And so I was pretty lucky that way. But he actually took me around, and he just ordered everything for me. He's like, he's like, figure you'll like this. Here. And this dish here in front of me is like, okay. You never miss, so I was lucky, right?
Nice.
Yeah,
nice.
So yeah, Japan is a great place. Yeah.
One thing I was going to mention is that my clients are often surprised that they are not coached a bit more on their English. Everyone tells me, I ask people to please correct me. I would say 100% of the people that I speak to have said, please correct me. So I wanted to mention something that might be more helpful than saying, could you please correct me? I know for sure that a Canadian won't do it. I believe that Americans are more open to that and will correct. And it's not going to hurt anybody's feelings. But in Canada, it would be terrible to damage the relationship. And so people don't do that. They don't go there, especially since they don't know how to help. If they knew what to say, they would help.
Right.
They don't know what to do with pronunciation at all. Zero. There are very few people that do what I do. It's a unique specialization, and it's one of the things that other people will just not be able to handle personally. So the question that gets better results than could you please correct me, and especially better results than how is my English, because that's what most people say. If you say, how is my English, the only answer a Canadian can give you is fine. And it's fine if it's level 1, and it's fine if it's level 10. Your English is fine. It means I accept you for you. I like you. right? Which is a big compliment, but it's terrible when you're trying to change your level of English. So the question you need to ask is, would it help my career to take a writing class? Would it help my career to join Toastmasters? Would it help my career to take a pronunciation class? Things like that. Be very specific. And if the person says, that might help, the might, which people think is sort of 50-50, is actually, 110%. I'm so glad you said this because I didn't want to bring it up. It is yes. Please take the class. So that might be helpful to redirect the question, change the question slightly. And if you say, would it help if I took a writing class? The person might be able to say, I think your writing is pretty good. What you might want to work on is, and then really listen. Or if you say, would it help to take a writing class? Yes, that would be helpful. And and then you could say, is there anything else that I should look into in terms of professional development? And then they might say, speaking. They might not, so it might be better to bring it up.
Right. And
get that elephant that's been sitting there in the middle of the room out into the open, address it. Canadians, for sure, Americans too, are fans of lifelong learning. We're all learning things. We're all learning new words every day. There are games about spelling and games about vocabulary. My dad watches, games with questions to jog your memory and add a vowel and buy a letter.
Yeah.
We enjoy that. It's a cultural, it's something that we feel strongly about, that being able to write, speak, read is something that we strive for, and we continue to strive as we get older. So there's no shame in going to school, and people will see you doing homework or hear you practicing, and maybe even smile at you and say, yeah, that sounds good. So, I encourage people to do that.
Okay, with that being said, what are the best ways for people to, after they've asked, would it help my career, to find a speaking coach or a pronunciation coach, because you're so specialized there? When the answer comes back, yes, that would help, how do they find you?
Okay. That's a good question. I've been talking about not having long sentences that go on forever, and I have a website that seems to be like a long sentence that goes forever. My website is EnglishPronunciationForSuccess.com. And you have to check to be sure you have pronunciation spelled correctly. That's one of the most difficult parts of my website. My phone number is 778-232-3815, and I can receive a call, a text, or a WhatsApp message there. And I love to receive notes on LinkedIn. I'm Cathinre Steele, number 1. There's a 1 at the end of my name on LinkedIn, and I would love to connect with anyone.
Cool. All right. So thank you for joining us, and thank you for helping us speak and pronounce better. Also, some of the quirks of etiquette around pronunciation also,
Yeah, we go into an area that is more emotional without realizing it. And my top level speakers, that's where they're falling into dangerous areas, is that they are perceived as being angry or arrogant or abrupt without meaning to. It's the intonation pattern of the first language coming to play in North American English, and it will hurt them. So yes, definitely there is a cultural component to this.
Yeah. Okay. Again, thank you for joining us today, and thank you everybody for listening, and we'll talk to everyone.
With my extreme pleasure. Thank you so much, Michael, and to everyone, to your success.
Yes. please look for that subscribe button wherever you see it on your screen so you can get continued updates from us and continued episodes of the Influencer Club. This show has been produced by Depictions Media. Please contact us at depictions.media for more information.